2-5 against Detroit this year after losing Game 1 last night 10-2. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the ballpark with Rex Hudler. I'm Ryan Lefevre. Joe Goldberg and Jeff Montgomery are coming up. For years, the Royals dominated the division. That was a strength of the Royals, how well they played in the Central. This year, it's clearly a weakness for the Royals.
Has been, Ryan. They're going to have to address that problem tonight. Now, in the past, they've like you said, they've had success against the Central, but this year, they've had winning records against the East, the West. They're 500 against National League teams. There's no reason why they can't pick this up. If they were just 500 in their own division, they'd be tied for first place right now. So it's important that they can continue to try to find a way to get those wins starting tonight.
Last night, the Royals had difficulty with Jordan Zimmerman, whose ERA was just under 6. Tonight, they'll see left-hander Matthew Boyd, and his ERA is just under 6. Academy Sports and Outdoors for all for less. Matthew Boyd will pitch for the Tigers tonight. His Tigers debut was his first game after being traded from Toronto for David Price, of all pitchers, a high-profile trade. He won his first big league game. He gave up 1 run in 7 innings, but Hud, our Toyota League leaders, will tell us that it has been downhill, steep downhill since then.
Humble pie awaits all in this game. You just don't hope it doesn't happen so early in his career like it has for Boyd. Now the Royals, they got his number. Oh man, whenever he gets on that toes, that slab, they get excited. Look at that ERA. That's the highest in Major League Baseball. Oh man. So on paper, we all know how baseball is, but on paper, the Royals should be able to score enough runs to win the game tonight off of Boyd. But you never know. Let's wait and see.
Joel and Monty are coming up next, and they'll talk about the Royals starter tonight, Travis Wood, making his second start for the Royals this year.
second of 4 between the Royals and the Tigers. And welcome back to the cage. Joel Goldberg, Royals Hall of Famer Jeff Montgomery, Travis Wood, July 2nd. Made his first start in almost 2 years. What did you see?
Well, I thought it was good. I thought it was really nice seeing him go out and mix in his pitches. I was hopeful he was going to get through 5 and get that win. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but really nice way he's thrown the ball here lately.
Yeah, Arcia in the driver's seat takes a look after a really rough start to his Royals career. He's turned things around. What's been the difference?
I think just the fact that he's going out and mixed in his pitches, that's a key for a guy. He's oftentimes going to pitch primarily against left-handed batters, but in relief, got to use all those pitches.
You mentioned that he primarily pitches against left-handed batters. He will face 8 hitters from the right side tonight, and a Tigers team that's really good against southpaws. So how does he neutralize?
Well, I think the Tigers traditionally are very predominantly right-handed power hitting team, and I think the real key when you're a lefty going against him, use your off pitches, find a way, expand the strike zone. He's got a nice changeup, got a cutter he can get on the hands of the right-handers. More importantly, mix up all of those pitches.
Well, the Royals have used 6 different starters in 7 games against the Tigers this year. Travis Wood will become the 7th. Maybe Whit Merrifield and company will have all the right moves. Jorge Bonifacio and the Royals getting set.
Local Mid-America Chevy dealer. By the Missouri Lottery, every ticket played gives back to Missouri schools. So play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. And by Thoroughbred Ford, every day there's a great deal waiting for you at Thoroughbred Ford. Tough start to the second half for the Royals. They have dropped 3 of 4. Tigers, on the other hand, have won 3 of 4 since the All-Star break, but they have made a rebuilding-like trade. We'll discuss when we come back. at the first pitch tonight as the Royals hope to even the series and gain some momentum against the Tigers this year. The Tigers took game 1 last night 10-2, and they sent Jason Vargas to the showers in the 3rd inning, scoring 6 runs. The Tigers are one of the best teams in the American League against left-hand pitching. Tonight the Royals will not have to worry about JD Martinez. We just found out a few moments ago that he has been traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks for 3 prospects. So no JD Martinez going up against Travis Wood tonight, who's making his 2nd start of the year.
Woody's ready to go now. It has been quite some time since he's towed the slab last, but you know, when you're the 5th starter or a long reliever, that's the toughest job on any pitching staff ever, because you're always having to wait, you know, to get in. But he can do it. He's got the pitches. This is his last start against the Twins. Fastball, he'll cut the fastball into righties. Slider, curve, changeup. You know, he threw 81 pitches. You know, that's pretty good for a guy that they weren't expecting to throw much more than 70. This guy, he's tough at heart. He wants to do so well for his team, and he's pitched a lot better. Now, as Ford around the horn, Royals defense behind him is one of the best in the league, that's for sure. Matter of fact, the fielding percentage says they're the best fielding team out of both leagues. But Escobar, happy he's back. This guy has an Iron Man streak. We thought, everyone up in our booth thought he was out. His wrist was broken. Sure enough, getting the news after the game last night was a breath of fresh air for everyone. Esky's okay, and look at him, right back in there. He's tough as nails. I know a lot of players that would have sat out 3 or 4 games, but Esky's back in there. Solid.
Ian Kinsler last night opened the game swinging at Jason Vargas' first pitch and doubled to center field. The first of 3 extra base hits last night, and Travis Wood starts him off with a fastball, and it's taken for a strike. Kinsler doubled in the first, tripled in the second, tripled in the 3rd, and that's the first time in his career he's had 2 triples in 1 game. Broke his bat, and Merrifield out in right field comes up to make the play. 2 pitches and 1 down. Well, the Royals were excited to get Travis Wood this past offseason because he can start, he can pitch out of the bullpen, but in his first 18 games it was a nightmare. An ERA over 9, walking almost 8 per 9 innings, but now in his last 8 games, 7 as a reliever, 1 as a starter, a 1.35 ERA, and walking fewer than 1.5 over 9 innings.
And you know, that first 18 games, we keep asking Ned Yost, what about Travis Wood? Why is he not performing? He says, I don't know. It's not in his DNA to pitch like this. He always throws strikes. We're just not sure what's going on. Well, he had a hard time settling in his new uniform. You know, his pitches were a little bit flat. He was staying mainly fastball cutters in his slider. That was on a little flatter plane. It's a little easier to hit those pitches that are flat. Now Dave's got him working a little bit more down with his slider and his curve, working down. That's the pitch he wants to. He wants to make sure to keep it down there below the knees. But he's going to have to use all of his pitches against the Tigers. You mentioned it. They're a good hitting team against lefties. They're 4th in the league in average at 271 and 3rd in power with 34 homers. So he'll have to keep it down. They're tough. You've got to pitch to the Tigers to beat them, and that's why the Royals haven't been able to beat them more consistently this year. We haven't pitched good enough to their hitters.
And this just isn't a reliever making a couple of starts. I mean, he's started 134 games in the big leagues. He almost has as much experience as a starter as he does a reliever. This is not that foreign to him, and as Hud pointed out in his last start, now it was 16 days ago, but he gave the Royals 81 pitches in his first start of the year.
He's got good mound presence.
Castellanos had 2 hits last night, a 2-run home run included, and that is a key number for the Tigers. There is a big difference between their success when they hit a home run and they do not hit a home run.
Keep him in the yard. Use the defense, work it down. He knows. Excellent,
2 down.
Excellent slider. Now that had a lot more break to it. That's not his cutter. That had to have been the slider. Good pitch. Very effective. You see him on the side of the ball like that, staying down through it. Beautiful. That ball broke way more than he was getting his first 18 games he pitched. So he's finding his groove.
Look at that. You keep the Tigers in the ballpark, they have won 2 of 26 games. But when they go deep, as they did last night twice, they are 16 games above 500. Strike over the outside to Justin Upton. He was hitless last night. He did walk leading off the 4th inning and scored a run. And the Tigers were on base all night last night. Out into right field again. Witt sprinting in, slides. He got it.
Plays like that really pick up the pitcher. Woody loves it. Merrifield, he's happy to play wherever you put him. Great catch.
For the 1st inning, here's the Royals lineup for tonight. Jorge Bonifacio will be the designated hitter, and Ramon Torres will be at second base. We just saw Whit Merrifield making a nice play. He is in right tonight, going up against 26-year-old Matthew Boyd. He won his Tiger debut against the Royals back in 2015. 1 run in 7 innings. His ERA against the Royals since then 11.9.
Well, it got him demoted the last time he faced the Royals. They sent him out. Fastball, change, slider, curve. See the slider? That's what they're working on. 382 average. That's what they told him to go to work on down in AAA in Toledo. Get more depth. The pitching coach said that Rich Doobie wanted him to get more depth, more downward angle instead of it being flatter across the strike zone. Not overpowering fastball. Average is about 91 miles an hour. He can reach 93 or so, but mainly fastball changeup.
Tied up Witt. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
It's a good pitch in there. Left-handers. You'll watch Woody do it too. Travis Wood. He's going to pitch him inside. Right-handers at least 3 or 4 inches in. It kind of makes him aware of in, and they try to get him soft away.
Got him on the foot. Royals had a couple of guys hit last night who were behind in the count. Escobar was hit with an 0-2 pitch. Bonifacio down in the count when he was hit in the 7th inning, and now Merrifield down 1-2 is on to begin the bottom of the 1st.
Clipped him right on the big toe. Tigers defense. Miguel Cabrera, 100 starts in in his career at first, third, left, and right. Wow, pretty good numbers for a utility player. However, his paycheck is nowhere near a utility player's check. He can hit a little bit.
Jorge Bonifacio, and a bullet right over Boyd's shoulder. 2 on, nobody out. And Jorge Bonifacio has now reached safely in his last 22 games. That's tied for the longest active streak in the big leagues.
Chuck and duck. Whoa, glad he got out of the way of that. He didn't react till that ball was behind him, and that's a good thing it didn't get him. But Bonifacio, man, you love getting hits like that. Right back up the middle, big hole up the diamond on the first pitch. Whenever you have any kind of streak, get it out of the way. That first at bat, now you can go to relaxing and hit. Not to be so tight later in games.
And he adds to his career high with a 9-game hitting streak. 2 on, nobody out to Lorenzo Cain. See if the Royals can cash this in. Last night, the Tigers scored 4 runs in the first 2 innings, and then the Royals had 2 on, nobody out in the bottom of the 2nd, and Jordan Zimmerman was able to wiggle away from that. Tonight, the Royals have 2 on, nobody out in the 1st inning. Breaking ball, 1-1.
At runners in scoring position average, wow, that's way up there. Time to get him. Locaine, he's hitting 279, almost 280 with a runner in scoring position.
Got a fastball in on him, 1-2.
Going to be a little bit more aggressive now. You know, with 31 ribbies, you know, he'd hope to have a little bit more, but really, for the most part of the early in the season, there wasn't a whole lot of runners out there on base for him to knock them in. So he's got a nice average with runners in scoring position, but look at the numbers off of Matthew Boyd. He is very confident about him hitting him 357 clip. Boyd came in hard there that last time. Let's see. If he tries to trick him, he's ahead in the count.
Ground ball to the right side. Cabrera gets a glove on it, and Tigers get the out at second base. So a runner at third with 1 out as the Tigers keep the double play in order.
Now this is an excellent try by Lorenzo Cain to get in that hole there. Cabrera, wow, was that a good play? Nice hands. Kinsler, if he misses that, Kinsler might have had a hard time getting an out there with first base vacated by Cabrera. A good try by Lorenzo Cain.
Eric Hosmer hit his 13th home run last night. For me, one of the most impressive home runs hit by a Royal this year. Not necessarily by total distance, but he literally hit a line drive that cleared the right field bullpen and went into the seats. I mean, there was no arc to that ball at all. Launch angle,
yeah,
pretty impressive.
No, and that and the hit speed, all the new metrics that's coming out now, those are impressive. But really, how about just get an RBI with an out sometimes? How about a doinker? Those are real classy hits. You know, we're in an era now where it's so fancy to get the hit speed, the launch angle, the home runs. But hey, Haas likes to go the opposite way against lefties.
Breaking ball, strike 1.
Haas a 316 hitter with 3 of his 13 homers from off of lefties. It's a nice job in situations like this, using the whole field. Five for 12 in his career off Boyd. That's a little funky move right there. I've seen a couple different looks now Boyd's given him. was a more flagrant look. It almost looked like a little balkish, didn't
a borderline balk
it?
move.
It was. It looked like it from up here.
But it's only a balk if the umpire calls it a balk.
That's right. But his vision there is perfect. The umpires. He's got the perfect vision for that. Does his foot cross the plane? That right foot. Plane of the rubber.
Up the middle and into center field. Just past the diving Ian Kinsler. Hosmer drives in Merrifield. The Royals lead 1-0.
Very nice. Haas sticking it, staying right with the breaking ball. It was elevated, and he guides it up the middle off the end of the bat. Look how his backside fell out. That's almost in the booty knock category. He was off balance, but great awareness of hitting it right by the mound. Get that run home.
So the hit batter turns into a run. And now first and third for Salvador Perez. In tight, ball one. Salvi was 1 for 3 last night. Both of his outs were line drives to center field. He has Kane at third, Hosmer at first. To left field. And that should be deep enough to get Kane to the plate. Upton will play it to second base. The Royals lead 2-0. Salvador Perez drives in his team leading 58th of the year.
Royals, they're jumping on Boyd. They know the numbers. They've seen him before. But I'm not so sure that they've seen these numbers here. In Kauffman Stadium, 13.17 ERA. That's highly flammable number right there. Ooh.
This is his 8th start in his career against the Royals, and he has now allowed 14 runs in the first inning. Nick Moustakas first pitch hacking, missed a slider. He was 0 for 4 last night. You know he's having a big year when going 6 straight games without a home run is newsworthy.
That's right.
And he goes the other way and drops it in front of Upton. Hosmer stops at second base. That's the Royals' 3rd hit of the first inning.
Very nice. Now Moose will tell you that he had a pitch last night he could have hit out. He just missed it. He popped it up. But look, it's going to happen. You're not perfect all the time. But that high heater there, that's exactly what you do with it. Stay inside of it. If you're going to swing at a pitch like that, you pull it, that's going to break your bat. That's the perfect way to go right to left field. Moose knows all about that field now.
Two on, 2 out for Escobar. Fouled away. I felt the way you did. Hey, there's a nice catch by a young guy who brought his glove tonight. I felt like you did last night. That did not look good when Escobar got hit. And when he got hit, it was the 7th inning, and there was no word the rest of the game on him. And I, along with many others, was assuming the worst.
So glad to hear that news. And he's swinging at the first pitch. You know, the Royals didn't hit today on the field. Ooh, man, right there. Anytime from the wrist to the hands and you get hit, there's so many small bones in there, it's very dangerous. And that got away from him. The pitcher, I'm sure he didn't mean to do that on purpose. Sopal, what's his name? I don't know how you pronounce that. Sopal.
That was actually Zimmerman.
Oh, Zimmerman.
Yep.
What, okay, so far he came in next.
He hit Bonifacio.
Okay. I don't think Zimmerman meant that, but it got away from him. Anytime you get hit in the wrist, and sometimes a pitcher's going to throw at a hitter's hands, not intentionally trying to hit him, but to get into his mind.
Foul outside of third base.
And once you know, it's so good to have X-ray facilities in ballparks now. That's part of the modern technology in baseball. When you know that they took a picture, everything's fine, there's no breaks, you're like, okay. And immediately he flipped the switch. I'm on go again. He's going to play. This guy's a machine. He plays through anything. But the confidence that you know you're not playing hurt really helps.
Royals head trainer Nick Kenny. And the ball literally struck a nerve, and he lost feeling in his hand. So, of course, when there's an injury to a wrist or a hand, the trainer goes out and says, squeeze my hand, to see how much strength he has in the hand. Base hit right field. He's got strength in the hand tonight. Hosmer's around third. Presley's throw is late, and the Royals have 3 in the first inning.
Base hits to all fields in the first inning. Escobar, love how he waited a click. Watch this, trying to bring the back door in. He waited a click, saw it, elevated, shot the hole. That's very nice piece of hitting right there. Great extension, good eye contact out there. Eye to hands, super swing. Lorenzo Cain had a key at bat when he tried to hit the ball over there, kept him out of a double play, was able to advance the runner and keep the line moving. Royals, little different offense tonight. Getting back to a sense of urgency. 371, that'll work.
So Matthew Boyd, whose career ERA was already over 9 against the Royals, has given up 3 in the first inning, and it all started when he hit Whit Merrifield with a 1-2 pitch. Slider for a strike to Alex Gordon. Alex was 1 for 4 last night. Another called strike, and it's 0-2. Alex talks it over with home plate umpire Phil Cuzzy.
Alex 254 with a runner at second and beyond. See if he can keep the line moving.
Saved by McCann. 1-2. Boyd's about to unload his 24th pitch of this 3-run bottom of the first inning. And he gets a strikeout, his first. So the Royals get more runs in the first inning tonight than they did all of last night. Hosmer, Perez, and Escobar driving the 3 runs.
inning, and Alcides Escobar has now started 263 straight games. Joel Goldberg at the K. I will echo what Ryan said. Thought the worst when it happened, but then thought it is Esky. He is kind of an Iron Man, and that's what happened. Talking guys to Alcides today, he said he kind of had the same reaction that we all did. He thought when he got hit and he couldn't feel anything in that wrist, I'm done. That's it, it's over. Then he goes into the clubhouse, and after a couple of minutes, he gains the feeling back. And that one going to get past Ramon Torres for Miguel Cabrera. But he says that I got the feeling back, and suddenly I'm okay. And I turned to head trainer Nick Kenny, and I said, I'm good. I'll be all right. And then the funny part of that story is that Jason Vargas, who did not have a good night, obviously says to Ned Yost, Esky's like a shark. He's got no bones in his body. And I checked with checked with Vargas on that today, and Vargas said, you can't break any bones if you don't have them.
Well, remember the slide from Brett Lawrie here a few years ago. That was an ugly looking slide in many ways, but man, we thought Esky was going to be out for a long time, and he just missed a handful of games. That is fair. Mikey Matuk hits it down in the left field corner. Cabrera will stop at third, and Matuk has a double, and the Tigers respond with runners at second and third and nobody out.
That ball hit by Cabrera, that's a hit all the way. It was a tough one, little change up hit, and that got him on first. And then Matuk, he's had his hitting shoes on. Was able to get to that pitch quickly. Looked like a slider. Now, there was a pitch earlier in the first inning when Wood struck out Castellanos that looked like a slider. I mean, it broke probably even more than his slider, but it was 89 miles an hour, and that was his cutter. So he's getting a lot of movement on his cut fastball tonight.
In on the knuckles of Victor Martinez.
Matuk, you know, you could tell when a ball's hit hard by the sound up here, and then by the trajectory of it, but that was hit exit speed 112.
Victor Martinez drove in 3 last night, and he has driven in at least 1 tonight, trying to make it 2. Matuk to the plate, and the throw skips by Salvador Perez, and Victor Martinez will stay put at first. That was a gamble by third base coach Dave Clark. The ball was in Kane's glove before Matuk hit third base, but Martinez has driven in 5 in the series, and now it's 3-2.
You're right. Clark did a nice job, but you can't send a runner if he's not coming hard. That's Matuk. He gets credit for that. He froze right there, wasn't sure, and he had to make sure Escobar didn't catch it, and then he took off and kept going hard right to the base, and Clark sent him, counting on he had to make a perfect throw to get him. So right back come the Tigers.
Here's James McCann, who did not play last night. Travis Wood is outside with ball 1. McCann is hitting just .201.
He's raking lefties. 265. 6 of his 9 homers are off a lefty, so be careful. Keep the ball down. Put him in the lane.
Slow breaking ball, 1 ball and 2 strikes. It's not just McCann, but so I'd mentioned the Tigers as a team have done quite well against left-hand pitching. They're in the top 3 in home runs against lefties. They have the highest slugging percentage against lefties. and the highest OPS against lefties in the American League, which partially explains getting 6 runs in 2 2/3 against Jason Vargas last night.
They just didn't miss. They were right on him. Didn't miss any of his pitches that were out over the middle of the plate. Breaking ball down, change ups down and away. Those are the ones who induce the ground balls. There's nobody out. Wood coming in, having pitched 32 2/3 inning, has induced 4 ground ball double plays. He has those. He has that in it. Wants to roll him up. Change up grip. He's holding behind him. The hitter sees it. All hitters keep their eye on that ball. When he goes to the glove, he's still watching. He watches his glove. They try to pick out any little movement they can to try to figure out what's coming. There it is there. Hold it back of the fingers like that. Hitter sees it, and they're going to watch that glove, see if it narrows or widens.
Base hit left field. 4 straight hits for the Tigers to begin the top of the 2nd inning.
Got the ground ball he wanted, just not right at Moose or Esky.
And now a visit from pitching coach Dave Island.
Yeah, that's elevated and 88.
Travis Wood didn't have any trouble in the top of the 1st inning getting the Tigers in order, but he has not pitched in 16 days. It was July the 2nd against Minnesota when Travis Wood, with the bullpen weary, starters injured, filled in. The Royals were hoping, as Hud said, 50, 60, maybe 70 pitches. And he gave the Royals 81 pitches and allowed just 2 runs in 4 innings.
He's going to have to make some adjustments here and down. Get the angle going back down again. There you go.
To Hosmer, out at second. No double play. And Travis Wood going over to cover. Martinez goes to third. McCann is out at second base.
Hard to double up Alex Presley. He can run. Good hands, nice soft hands. That throw a little bit, you know, that wasn't too bad. It took him right to the base. There's just no chance. Presley's an above average runner. Look at Woody, hoping to get that out.
Number 9 hitter Dixon Machado playing at shortstop, so no Jose Iglesias tonight.
Presley's 3 for 3 in steals. Machado, he can handle the bat. He's not much of a power threat, but he can put the ball in play.
In the air to right field, and that will tie the game. Royals get 3 in the bottom of the 1st. The Tigers get 3 in the top of the 2nd.
Middle. Good swing. Didn't try to pull it. If he tries to pull it, he might have rolled that over into a double play. Went with the pitch.
Ian Kinsler with a runner at first base, 2 down. He is the subject of our Kubota Power Stats. Outstanding career numbers, and in his last 9 games he is hitting .487 against the Royals with 6 extra base hits. 3 of those were last night. 21 home runs in 108 games against the Royals.
So I had to find out. So I went down. The Tigers had optional hitting today, so sometimes, you know, you got to wait around for your interviews. Ask Joel Goldberg, he'll tell you that. You're on their time. So I saw Kinsler. I said, Ian, really, when you see a Royals uniform, your bats just start trembling and jumping, don't they? He goes, I love hitting against teams in the Midwest. I said, really? How about the White Sox? And, you know, if I look at Milwaukee, do you have good numbers against those teams? He goes, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, I went to school up here at Mizzou, and I just like hitting against teams in the Midwest. That was his answer. And he knows when he comes to the ballpark here and he faces the Royals, especially here, his eyes light up.
And he's not a Midwest kid. He spent 1 year at Mizzou, but he's from Arizona and began his college career in Arizona. So this is not his native climate. But his bats like it.
No doubt.
Presley to third. He'll be held there. And that's another extra base hit for Ian Kinsler against the Royals. Second and third with 2 down.
Tigers offense, they're coming back. Now, these are all elevated pitches now. So, Woody, even though Ned Yost said that the long in-between layoff shouldn't affect Woody at all, it's a timing game, and the longer you lay it out, you know, sometimes it does have an effect on your command and your location as a pitcher. Hitters, kind of similar. You don't have a lot of timing up there, so you may not be on the ball.
Castellanos struck out on a slider in the first inning. That's Travis Wood's only strikeout. Jammed him. Shallow right field, and Merrifield out of his glove. So close to saving 2 runs. Instead, it is a 2-run triple for Castellanos, and the Tigers have 5 in the second inning. There was no out on that play, but that was a tremendous effort by Whit Merrifield.
Oh, I'll say I didn't think he'd come 10 feet from that doinker. That's what that was. It's just a little doinker, and it went just off the end of his glove. Excellent effort. And you hate to see this. Royals have a breakout first inning, 3 in the first, which we don't see a whole lot of. And then the very next inning, they drop a 5 spot on you.
And now the 9th man to bat in the inning, Justin Upton, who made the last out of the first on a great play by Merrifield. And now he grounds it to Moustakas. And that'll do it. 5 runs, 6 hits. The Tigers bat around in the second inning. And that would describe Giancarlo Stanton every time he comes to the plate. This one he hits off the scoreboard at Marlins Park. And then another impressive home run. 24th career multi-home run game. He has 28 home runs to lead the National League. Only Aaron Judge has more in the major leagues. He has 30. Those two guys could have probably played any sport they wanted to. Shattered bat, and Castellanos gets Torres one down in the bottom of the second.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Those guys are tremendous athletes. So now his team got him 5 runs. Now Boyd, see if he's a different pitcher. He was the first 2 pitches there. He looked pretty good. Now let's don't let him get settled in here. Keep the pressure on him.
Ball 1 to Whit Merrifield. He was hit by a 1-2 pitch in the first inning and scored the first of 3 runs. And he just seems to get better every day. 2 balls and no strikes, and you know the league is spending a little extra time on him the way he's been swinging the bat. But since the All-Star break, a .353 average with 4 doubles. He has 9 doubles in July, which leads the major leagues. He has doubled in 4 consecutive games. Our Academy Sports and Outdoors leaderboard. He has the most doubles since the beginning of June, tied with Adam Duvall of the Reds. And if he hits a double tonight, he will tie a Royals record with a double in 5 consecutive games.
Very possible. And when it comes to the opponents trying to figure out a hitter like Whitley, it makes it a lot harder when you're going pole to pole. You're going line to line, anywhere in the middle. Hits it wherever it's pitched. That's a tough guy to figure out. Spray chart on him, it's all over the place. So they're going to focus more maybe on location on him, but you know what, he has such a great bottom hand that he'll middle away or even inside pitches, he'll drive to right field and then he'll turn on them when he wants to.
To the gap, and Presley got a good break and runs it down. I was discussing that with Ned Yost before the game tonight. The Whit Merrifield story will be used for inspiration in the Royals minor leagues for many, many years. For a good player who's put up numbers but maybe isn't getting promoted like other players, maybe more higher profile prospects, maybe not getting the same look, but just hanging in there, grinding it out, not being put on the roster when he wants to be put on the roster. And now here he is. Didn't get here as quickly as he wanted to, but that will be used for motivation many, many times.
Absolutely. General manager of the Royals, Dayton Moore, does a great job at motivating his guys and using examples like Whitley, Alex Gordon, the fact that he got called into the office and they sent him down and he said, I'll go. Well, he uses examples like that to motivate the young guys. Some of those guys in the minors have been there for a long time and they need a little encouragement. Keep it up. Don't quit. Bonifacio is another good example of a young player that's come up here and has taken that everyday job and run with it, just like Whitley. It's a production-based business. They're producing.
James McCann makes the play on Bonifacio, and Matthew Boyd doing exactly what his team needed him to do. A 1-2-3 inning after they gave him 5. Tires Trust to provide transportation to over 500 youth across the country using the Fox Sports Fan Express. And taking in tonight's game are members of Operation Breakthrough, an organization that provides a safe, loving, and educational environment for children in poverty and empowers their families through advocacy, emergency, and education. There they are out in the right field corner enjoying tonight's game.
What a great idea. Wonderful job. Look at them. They're having a good time.
That young lady in the middle, she's got something to say. She had an opportunity with a high definition camera in her face, and she was going to make the most of it.
Like it.
Travis Wood had a 1-2-3 first inning. He allowed 5 in the second. Mikey Matuk doubled and scored in that 5-run second inning. Changeup makes it 0-2.
Yep, Woody didn't have the same location that he did in the first inning. That second inning, man, he was up over the plate, and they're going to let you know, not overpowering.
Escobar on the run, close but out. 2 down. Tonight's game is on AFN, the American Forces Network, now in its 75th year of broadcasting to American military personnel overseas in more than 170 countries and naval ships at sea. So we welcome you to Kauffman Stadium. We thank you for your service.
That's right.
Two down to Victor Martinez. He drove in the first 2 of the Tigers' 5-run second inning with a single to center field. Travis Wood throws a strike. Chop to third. Moustakas has plenty of time and throws in the dirt. Maybe too much time. So Travis Wood gets 3 ground balls and disposes of the Tigers quickly in the third. Royals down by 2 to the bottom of the third. Heineman has organized the annual Special Olympics Shrimp Peel. Dave serves as chairman of the Shrimp Peel Committee, which organizes cooks, obtains items, solicits sponsors, and oversees the event. And since its inception, the Special Olympics Shrimp Peel has raised close to $900,000 for the local Special Olympics community. And Dave is sitting in the Buck O'Neil legacy seat at tonight's game.
Thank you so much, Dave. Makes a huge difference to those young men and women that they have those recreational sports that they can compete. Helps their self-esteem, their athleticism, and their life. Way to go, bud.
Breaking ball strike to Lorenzo Cain. He reached on a fielder's choice and scored in the Royals' 3-run first inning, and then the Tigers answered with 5 in the second. One and one. One and two on Cain. Mentioned earlier that Matthew Boyd won his first big league game against the Royals back in 2015. That was his Tigers debut. He is from the Blue Jays organization, and in a deadline deal, there's a line drive to left field, going to be caught by Epton. In a deadline deal, the Tigers got 2 of the best pitching prospects from the Blue Jays, Matthew Boyd and Daniel Norris, for David Price. And Daniel Norris at the moment is the only Tiger on the disabled list. They're a mostly healthy team right now. Our University of Kansas Health System injury report update: he has a left groin strain. 4-7 with a 5.29 ERA for the Tigers, and really that's it. But there's a base hit to left field for Hosmer. He is 2 for 2. And he'll run on Justin Upton, or maybe not. He hits the brakes after taking a wide turn, and he's at first base with 1 out.
2 outs, that's a good gamble to go, but down 2 runs, he made the wise decision. Fastball up, stayed up, and Haas, we've seen him do this countless times. Take that ball to left field. When he does that, he's a super hitter. His numbers show it.
Tigers are 6 games back in the standings in 4th place. So they are healthy. They have won 3 out of 4 since the All-Star break, but they traded away JD Martinez, their regular right fielder and one of their biggest run producers. So that is probably the beginning of a few deals to unload some veterans and begin the rebuilding process for 2018. He goes to the Diamondbacks for 3 prospects, including the Diamondbacks' 4th best prospect, a shortstop. Jim Adducci has been called up from AAA. Tigers are short-handed at the moment, but Adducci is on his way to KC and may be available off the bench later tonight.
Yeah, I was able to check out who they got. They got one guy that's in AA. His name is Dewald Lugo. He's 22 years old, 3rd baseman that has some power, a little bit of power prospect. He's their 4th prospect, like you said. Sergio Alcantara is a shortstop, 21 years old, looks good, switch hitter. And they have an 18-year-old shortstop, 2nd baseman. They got Jose King. Young guy. All 3 young players, and they're building for the future.
JD Martinez helped create a stir last night when he came out in the middle of the game, and the Tigers clearly were scrambling to figure out who was going to play right field. The other 8 guys out there were just standing around waiting for a right fielder, and then Alex Presley jumped out. Salvi is jammed, and Kinsler is going to let it bounce. That gets the faster runner off the field. So Hosmer is forced out at second base, and Perez is at first with 2 down.
It's a nice try by Kinsler, but what he wanted to do was let it drop and throw to Cabrera and get the out at first. Then you get the run down in the middle. You're getting double playing out of the inning. Well, he'll take the out at second.
And now Boyd will get Mike Moustakas. Moustakas went the other way and singled to left field in the first inning. He is one of 5 Royals in the lineup tonight, who've done really well against Boyd in the past. That was the same first pitch that Moustakas saw in the first inning, a first pitch slider. On the second pitch, Boyd came back with a fastball, and rather than trying to pull it, Moustakas went to left. Oh, and 2. Mike Moustakas, with all that power, 25 home runs. He has walked 15 times this year.
He's hacking.
Stats will show you that he's swinging at a lot more pitches this year than he has in any other year in his career. Two and 2. Boyd gave up 3 in the first inning. And now he gets a pop up into shallow right. And now he has retired 8 of the last 9 after the 3-run first inning. Tigers lead 5-3. Night and Thursday night, and the White Sox are in town over the weekend. And on Saturday, you can grab the next bobblehead in our Memorable Moments series. The first 20,000 fans receive this exclusive Eric Hosmer bobblehead presented by Rally House, commemorating his game-tying dive into home plate in the 9th inning of Game 5 of the 2015 World Series. Royals.com, an area Price Chopper location, or 1-800-6-ROYALS for tickets. A moment we will never forget. And now you can think about it even more with a bobblehead on your desk.
That's right. You know, bobbleheads at one time was you thought might be just a little craze or a little thing, you know, like the spinner is, you know, it's coming in now. But that's lasted. The bobbleheads, it's been going on for years now, every single season. And it's been fun. People love them.
Two 2-0 on James McCann. You know, with the Tigers in town, you could look at the early makings of Hosmer's play in the World Series. It was Eric's first year, 2011. It was the last game before the All-Star break. Here's the play, infield in, World Series, 9th inning, and a first baseman coming down the line that tied the game, and the Royals would get 5 in the 12th. The reaction of the people behind home plate is just wonderful. But I remember in 2011, it was the last game before the All-Star break. And it was Ned Yost's second year as manager, and he basically turned all the coaching responsibilities over to the coaches. He was not a micromanager. Look, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Look, you're the coaches, go coach. And the trickle down was the coaches then gave the players the freedom to play. There was still a game plan, but look, go out there and play the game. 3-2 on McCann. Use your instincts. And they knew, the coaching staff knew, that they'd make mistakes, but there's no better lesson than learning from a mistake at this level. So that's the setup for the last game before the All-Star break in 2011. And with the game on the line late, it was like the 8th or 9th inning. Escobar backhands, and the throw is wide. Hosmer gets the tag on McCann. McCann says, I don't think so, and he wants the Tigers to take another look at it. And he shakes his head, McCann does, at first base umpire Vic Carapazza, and says he didn't get me.
Well, as a runner, you can feel that backside, especially if a glove brushed up against you, and he looked right away, didn't feel like he. Now they're gonna replay it.
They will challenge. So just to finish the thought, Eric Hosmer late in the game, the Royals were down by 1 or 2. There were 2 down. He was at second base. He tried to steal third, and he was out, and it wasn't even close. So the inning was over. The Royals lost the game. And on one hand, you could say, well, you don't want to make the last out at third base. Why is a first baseman trying to steal third? But the Royals coaching staff was impressed that he would even try that. I mean, how many first basemen would try to steal third late in a game to try and make something happen? And so that was the root of these guys taking the extra base, taking some chances, being aggressive, taking risks on the field. And the end of it was his dash from third base on the biggest stage, baseball stage in the world, with the game on the line, and that risk paid off.
Absolutely.
Holtze looked it up. It was the 9th inning. The Royals were down 2-1, and there was actually 1 out, and he tried to steal third. So he was trying to get to third with 1 out. But I remember the buzz among the coaching staff, hey, how about he even was thinking about that? How about he even tried to do that? A rookie first baseman trying to steal third.
So here's the other side of that. If you call him in your office and you're a manager and you say, hey, you know what, you can't make outs like that. Now he's going to remember that, and it's going to take away his aggressiveness. Aggressive mistakes are welcomed by managers and coaches, and it ended up paying off, like you said. Now they're taking a little while on this. It's been a tough angle, cannot really clear it from any of the angles we've seen that he missed him or tagged him. Take some time on this one.
I haven't seen one that shows that he definitely missed McCann. Now he's still reaching for the tag there, and he clearly wasn't making contact, but can you prove with any of these angles that he missed him?
That's what they're looking for.
So I think James McCann just fell victim to the camera angles. Call stands. So there was no convincing evidence either way, and it's just a ground ball to short and 1 down in the 4th inning. Holtze just showed me a note. Also in 2011, Alcides Escobar hit .207 with runners in scoring position, and Ned Yost took a lot of heat for leaving Esky late in games with a game on the line with, you know, a more veteran, experienced bat on the bench, with the goal being he's going to learn. You know, he's got to be in these situations if you want him to get better. And night after night, why is Escobar at the plate in a situation like this? And Ned would just kind of brush it off, and he ends up being the 2015 ALCS MVP.
And in both series and both championship seasons, he had played huge offensively. And so again, the other side of that, you pull the player off, he gets used to, he starts looking in the dugout in a situation because he's used to you pulling him off. He doesn't have the confidence.
Alcides Escobar is a .311 postseason hitter. Called out by Alex Gordon.
Yeah, only .311. That's developing your talent.
Students, join us here at Kauffman Stadium every Wednesday home game for Student Nights presented by Inc. Magazine. You can purchase tickets for only $10 with your student ID and enjoy a happy hour special at the Boulevard Radler Station concession stand as you listen to live local music on the Outfield Experience stage before the game. We have a student night tomorrow. Jason Hamill and Justin Verlander for the 7:15 game. One and one on Machado. And HUD, with full disclosure, I will admit to you that I was one of those guys screaming in the booth. Why don't we have a more experienced bat at the plate right here to win this game?
Yeah.
I don't want to throw that on disgruntled fans. I was one of them.
Okay. But it worked.
3 up, 3 down. Wood has retired 7 in a row. And speaking of Alcides Escobar, he's driven in a run tonight, and he will lead off the bottom of the 4th. Join us in acknowledging the strong Tech presence in the KC community with Tech Night. That's Thursday against the Tigers, presented by Konica Minolta. It's a theme ticket that comes with a custom Royals portable power bank and a seat for the game. For more information and to purchase those tickets, go to royals.com/theme tickets. Escobar shortens up and takes inside for ball 1. Royals scored 3 in the bottom of the first inning. Escobar drove in the 3rd run.
Time to get back on him.
Cabrera goes into foul ground. 1 out. So Boyd, who had an ERA over 9 against the Royals when the game started, he gave up 3 in the first inning, and now he has set down 9 of the last 10.
This team got him 5 runs. That made a big difference mentally on the mental side. I guarantee you that. He towed the slab out there and he says, all right, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And since then, he's been a new man.
He has struck out 1, and that was Alex Gordon to end that 3-run first inning. 0-2. No swing. Tom Hallion, the crew chief, is down at third base tonight. Fastball got him. Both strikeouts for Boyd against Gordon have been on fastballs. 2 down.
Was the second pitch in this sequence. There was a hanging slider that really was a good pitch about belt high, and Alex couldn't see it. Doesn't look like he's seeing the ball at all. He's jumping.
How about that for a trip? In 1 year. We'll see them again at Detroit on the next road trip. Good for them. Home in Seattle. Another good for them.
That's right. It's a long month.
Two and 1 on Ramon Torres. Getting a start at second base tonight with Whit Merrifield in right. And Jorge Bonifacio serving as the designated hitter. That will drop and put an end to an 0 for 15 for Ramon Torres.
Missouri Lottery Fox Tracks shows you this pitch was inside on his hands, and he was able to jam it out there. And I didn't hear a bat crack, so the bat stayed intact. He'll take the doinker. It's a beauty. Texas Leaguer, Dying Quail.
Among others.
There are some others that are used in the dugouts.
Right. And use other birds as part of the description. Target was inside and Boyd missed outside. Witt was hit by a pitch on the foot in the first inning. He scored on Hosmer's base hit, and he is lined to right. Mentioned earlier that if he doubles tonight, he would have a double in 5 consecutive games. That is 1 game shy of the Royals record.
Torres, you know, excuse me, Ryan. Torres has a bag. He has 1, but you know what? With 2 outs, not a bad idea to send him here. If he gets thrown out, Whitley's leading off the next inning. See if they can get a little something going.
Curveball a little bit high, 2-0. Out to Castellanos, force at second base, and that's the inning. We've played 4, and the Tigers lead 5-3. Ford, going further so you can. And by Menards, save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. 2 big innings tonight. The Royals scored 3 in the first. The Tigers scored 5 in the second. Travis Wood has set down the last 7. 3 batters in the first, 9 in the second, and then the minimum in the third and fourth innings. Fouled away by Ian Kinsler. It's too bad he won't be here on Friday. Tigers will be gone after the game on Thursday night. The Chicago White Sox will begin a 3-game series here on Friday, and we're going to have Mizzou night. Kane is back. 8 in a row retired by Travis Wood. So Tiger fans, as in Mizzou fans, make sure to get your theme ticket for Friday, the Royals and the White Sox. If you have the theme ticket, you receive this limited edition Mizzou branded Royals cap courtesy of Fox Sports Kansas City and Rally House, and those tickets are available at royals.com/theme tickets. Aw. Here's Castellanos. He has hit a 2-run triple tonight.
What Travis Wood's doing now that he didn't do in the second inning is he's not trusting his cutter like he did the first inning. The first inning, that cutter was looking like a slider, was breaking so much. He's using more of those cutters now. He's staying in on their hands and out of the middle. That's the whole thing with pitching. If you're going to be successful, location of the pitch is the most important thing. Changing speeds is second. Velocity, you know, that helps if you have velocity. If you don't, location is everything. So he's coming inside on the righties, and he's being more successful now. That second inning, when they knocked 5 runs in on him, he was in the middle with everything. And I think the layoff that he has had in between outings was the reason for that. It took him a little while. Now he's at 56 pitches to kind of get his gauge going in a timing sport. Talked about the long man reliever and the 5th starter on a team. Sometimes that's got to be a special guy, because that 5th starter is not going to pitch on off days. Might be a week or so. long man may not get in either. Has to have a special character here. It's a tough job. Oh man, that ain't coming back.
6-3 Tigers. As Castellanos hits his 13th of the year and his 2nd of the series. And there's that number for the Detroit Tigers, and what a different team they are when they hit a home run. That's their first of the night.
Well, Lottery Fox Track shows you that was 90 right down the middle of the plate. It's a little one-hand takeoff. It's got fully extended.
.40-25 when they hit a home run. They have won 2 of 26 games when they don't hit a home run. The Tigers have been a handful for the Royals this year. The Tigers are 5-2 against the Royals this year, and they have out-homered the Royals 13-5. Upton has flied to right field on a sliding play by Merrifield and grounded to third. Base hit left field for Upton. Tigers have 8 hits in 4 1/3 innings tonight. And another trip to the hill by Dave Island.
Cutter, it got in there, but not enough. And when you don't quite have that big power 93, 94 mile an hour velocity, hitters have a chance to get around on that.
Peter Moylan up in the Royals bullpen. Al Albuquerque was warming up in the 2nd inning when the Tigers scored 5, and then Travis Wood faced 6 and retired 6 in the 3rd and 4th innings. He got the first out of this inning against Kinsler, and now a home run and a single, and a man on for Miguel Cabrera. Cabrera, surprisingly, had nothing to do last night with the Tigers. 10 runs, 14 hits. He was 0 for 4 with a walk. He is 1 for 2 with an infield single tonight, and now an outfield single. It's one of the most remarkable things about Miguel Cabrera and his recent run, the number of batting titles he has won with virtually no infield hits.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hits it all.
And Ned Yost will go to Peter Moylan with 2 on, 1 out. 5th inning. The Royals are down by 3. Chevy called to the bullpen with 1 out in the 5th inning. The Tigers scored 5 in the second. Then Travis retired 8 in a row. Now the Tigers have added a run in the 5th, and he departs with 2 on, 1 out. Peter Moylan takes over, and the Royals bullpen since the end of June has been one of the best in the major leagues in several categories. The second best ERA, the lowest opponent's batting average, and the fewest home runs allowed. And that, of course, was the Royals' biggest question mark in spring training this year.
They've all fallen into their roles. Pete's been a big contributor. 43rd appearance here. Sinker, slider, ground ball deluxe. Ned's hoping he can put Mattuck in the lane, roll him up. Now, this run's good. I'll have to hit something hard right at somebody, but that sinker, slider, that sinker comes into the righty, and he's got 2 different breakers that go away.
Mattuck doubled and scored in the 5-run second inning. He is also rolled out to short. He is 0 for 1 against Moylan. Merrifield fades back in right field. Upton tags. He'll go to third. Runners at the corners with 2 down. Peter Moylan's overall ERA is 5.23. Got off to a really good start. He had 1 bad month, and now in his last 21 games, his ERA is 1.13.
Yeah, and you know, Pete, some guys are, you know, they play up to their statistics overall, and some guys, you look past those if the numbers aren't exactly where you want them to be, and you go situation to situation. Pete's a grinder. He's a veteran player. He loves to pitch, and you can count on him.
There's no reliever who will admit they don't like coming in the middle of an inning, because they're going to be called to do that. They don't want the manager to lose confidence in them in that situation. But Peter Moylan is one of those guys. He loves to come in the middle of the inning.
He's special.
Out to Torres in shallow right, and Moylan comes in and slams the door on the Tigers. Castellanos slams a home run to left, and Detroit leads 6-3.
Takes us up to Minnesota, where Bartolo Colon is making his debut for the Twins. Got some good stuff, little sinker, slider, mainly sinkers. Doing a pretty good job. 4th inning, you know, he's given up 5 hits, Twins are up 3-1. That's where we are right now.
When he struck out Aaron Judge, you can't help but wonder, you know, the age gap there. And Aaron Judge was 4 when Bartolo Colon made his big league debut. And Bartolo Colon faced his manager, Paul Molitor, 8 times. That's his 10th major league team, Bartolo Colon.
It's awesome.
Bonifacio is 1 for 2 with a single. Everyone, well, most everyone, is waiting for 2 things to happen in the Central Division. Number 1, for the Cleveland Indians to take off. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now here in Kansas City, we're hoping that doesn't happen, but the baseball world is expecting that to happen at some point. It has not. And in the same vein, for Minnesota to go away. They have the 2nd worst team ERA in the American League. Broken bat, ground ball to third. Castellanos throws out Bonifacio. That typically is a statistic of death. If you are at the bottom or near the bottom of your league in ERA, forget it, man. You got no shot. But the Minnesota Twins, 14th in the league in ERA, and hanging in there.
Yeah, a lot of young players. They hustle, they're scrappy. They got up to such a great start, mainly against the Royals, and they started believing. Molitor's got them all working on pulling on the same end of the rope. You know, they're hanging in there so far. You can't tell them they're not going anywhere.
0-2 on Kane, and yeah, the easy reply is, well, they're only 2 games above 500. I mean, come on, it's not a strong division to this point. I mean, they'd be buried if they were in some other divisions, but just to be above 500 at this point. They lost 103 games last year and really didn't get much better in the offseason.
You got to love the defense they're playing. They're 2nd in fielding percentage behind Kansas City Royals, our team. They're catching the ball. That's a big help. But that's that ERA you said. I mean, that's hard to figure. And then there's a lot of people in baseball just not sure about the Royals yet. Because when you hang around the
wild card team,
yeah, they're like, well, what are they going to do?
Kinsler brings it down, 2 away in the 5th inning. Eric Hosmer has 2 hits tonight, 2 singles, an RBI, and a run scored. Hit an impressive home run late in the game last night. Our sprint trivia question: name the 3 active American League players with more career home runs at first base than Eric Hosmer. 3 active American League players with more career home runs at first base than Eric Hosmer. 1 is on the field right now, right?
I'm thinking.
There's 1.
He even tipped his cap for us.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Big fan of our broadcast. Big
Yep.
fan of yours. Tunes in whenever he can.
Sure. American League.
Active American League. Chris Davis.
Ding, ding, ding. How about Carlos Santana?
Heck of an effort.
I thought.
Why am I smelling a trick question? Upton makes a play in left field. Matthew Boyd has 4 consecutive scoreless innings after giving up 3 in the first. Good start for the Royals tonight. They scored 3 in the first inning against Matthew Boyd. The Tigers got 5 in the second and 1 in the 5th. Lower third coming up. James McCann, Alex Presley, and Dixon Machado. McCann is 1 for 2 with a single. Peter Moylan got the final 2 outs of the 5th inning for Travis Wood, who is charged with all 6 runs tonight.
Pete back out there, sinker slider. That sinker moving in about 2 or 3 inches. That's what he uses to set up the slider away.
Two and one. I mentioned it when he came in that no pitcher is going to admit to their manager that they don't like coming in, but very few love coming in the middle of the inning, and you can't blame them. I mean, it's nice to come in with a clean inning and have some breathing room. It's kind of one of those questions you ask a reliever. Do you like coming in the middle of the inning? And they kind of answer that like, do you like going to the dentist? You know, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, if I have to, I will. But I asked Pete about a week ago, you like coming in the middle of the inning? And his eyes got big. I love it.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's the mentality you need.
McCann has his second hit. All right, let's clean up our sprint trivia question. 3 active American League players with more career home runs at first base than Eric Hosmer. Miguel Cabrera, Chris Davis, and Justin Smoke. Who ended up being the starter at the All-Star game this year at first base.
It's a good question tonight.
Alex Presley is 0 for 2. He scored a run after reaching on a fielder's choice in the second inning. That is fair and foul.
And great practice.
Home plate umpire Phil Cuzzy was calling it fair. Third base umpire Tom Hallion was calling it foul.
What a play by Moose anyway. All for practice.
So who has priority, the crew chief?
Here, look at Cuzzy. Now you can see he's calling foul ball. Hallion.
Phil Cuzzy, his first call was that it was a fair ball. And when he saw Tom Hallion's arms in the air, he changed his call. A little bit outside, 1-2. Two and two. Alex Presley is out of the Pirates organization. We saw him with Minnesota. He was involved in a trade for Justin Morneau. Hit well to center. Kane is there. 1 out.
I thought Presley was a young player, but he's been around. You mentioned it. Pirates, Twins, Astros, now the Tigers. He's a nice player. Put a charge into that. Locane didn't think he hit it as well, but he hit it pretty good.
Sugar-free double bubble.
That'll work.
Would that be considered a foreign object on a pitcher's body?
I don't think so, because second base umpire Vic Carapazza, Mark Rippiger, he's staring right at it. If he thought there was an issue there, he might say something to him, but I think that's just a bench thing. That's just one of the many things that could be on your body from that dugout. We used to get toilet paper rolls and put it in the back pocket of a player and then let him run on the field all the way out to the outfield and keep the roll in the dugout, and he'd have a stream. We did more of that in the minor leagues. That was more of a minor league trick. Big leagues, you didn't want to do that too much. Nice pitch there. Got the slider where he wanted it. Missouri Lottery Fox Track shows you that's where he loves to put that one. He likes to start it out in the middle. Look at the hitter sees, oh, that's going to be good. Last minute, down and away. The one to McCann that he hit to center didn't do that. It stayed up.
It's impressive.
The things our cameras can pick up. It's beautiful.
Players are superstitious, and Moylan keeps pitching like he is in this inning. He might staple that thing to his pants for the rest of the year. The Rally Double Bubble Wrapper.
Until it,
give it a cage and carry it around the American League.
Until he gets the run in there. Now, something tells me I don't think he knows it's there. Player's going to go with his T-shirt or certain pair of socks, cleats, something if they're on a roll that might keep them, they think, in the right groove.
Remember, I told you last inning that Moylan's overall ERA is over 5, and that really doesn't tell you the kind of year that he's had for the Royals. He had one bad month, and really it wasn't a bad month. It was 3 bad outings, which wrecked his ERA. He had 3 outings where he allowed a combined 14 runs.
Oh.
He has allowed 4 runs in his other 39 outings.
And that's another example of Ned staying with him, not panicking and saying, uh-oh, he's lost it. He's staying with him. And by the way, the gum wrapper fell off as he walked towards home plate. It fell off on the ground. Moylan saw it, picked it up, and put it in his pocket.
Well, let's see how he pitches without it.
Okay, just telling you, I saw it. I don't know if our camera was able to pick that one up, but it's not there anymore, and hopefully he'll get the out.
3-2. McCann is running, and Kinsler pops it up.
Hey, got the job done. There you go, Pete. Nice job.
And it's our Sonic Slam inning. Tonight's contestant is Kim Savage from Kansas City, Missouri. If the Royals hit a home run out of the park in this inning, Kim wins $1,200. If the Royals hit a grand slam out of the park, Kim wins $25 grand from Sonic and the Royals. And the big home run hitters are coming up. Salvador Perez with 18, Mike Moustakas with 25. Royals scored 3 in the first inning against Matthew Boyd. And since the first inning, the Royals have 2 singles. Salvi looking for a pitch up, fouls it straight back. He has retired 13 of the last 15 since that 3-run first inning. Into right field, Presley coming up. He's got it. And Perez is 0 for 2. He had a sac fly in that 3-run first inning. The Royals and Fox Sports Kansas City are offering a unique way for fans across the Midwest to enjoy a game right here at Kauffman Stadium. It's the Rays Royal Fan Express. The next stop is Columbia, July 22nd. Go to Royals.com/Fan Express for more information. Mike Moustakas is 1 for 2. Breaking ball for a strike. Moustakas went the other way and singled to left in the first inning. He has also popped out to second base.
Royals have just gotten 2 lousy singles since that first inning. Kind of just stop it. I think you can credit Boyd for making the adjustments that he had to make. I think you know, after getting recalled from the minor leagues, this is really one of his last opportunities. His manager Brad Ausmus said, you know what, this is I'm not promising him any more starts after this. So once his team got him the 5 runs, he says, man, this is my chance. I have to be able to execute my pitches. My back's against the wall here. If I blow this, I may never get back this year. He might send me back out forever. So that's what a player feels when your back's against the wall. You start executing like that, glove side power run, a big old hook like that on his glove side. That's perfectly executed against a power hitter. You're making your pitches.
Highest ERAs against the Royals in history, with at least 7 starts. Nobody had a higher ERA than Matthew Boyd. And yeah, I mean, he could have folded up the tent after giving up 3 runs in the first inning.
Yeah, there's no doubt, but that's the importance of run support and what that can do for you, your confidence. But the Royals got to forget about that. They've got to just get back to their game, get a few guys on, and attack.
Escobar singled in the 3rd and final run of that bottom of the first. Inside, 3-0. And now Boyd wants a new baseball.
7 walks on the year for Esky. He's a hard walk. He's looking to swing, and thankfully he's in there. Man, it's hard to believe that. I thought for sure he had a broken bone in his wrist and he was out. Get on base here. Take a pitch.
4-pitch walk.
8 on the year.
And that's the first allowed by Matthew Boyd tonight. .83 pitches. They begin to stir around now in the right field bullpen. Alex has had a bad time tonight with Boyd's fastball. He has struck out twice on fastballs up. Base hit center field, and that brings a tying run to the plate with 2 down. Escobar goes to 3rd.
Make that 2-out walk and base hit hurt here. Look at that. Very nice. Good location, too. Nothing wrong with that. It's down. It's out over the plate. But Alex, very nice job of just staying with it. Ripping it. That's a solid contact hit there. Torres, see if you can keep the line moving some way and get a little momentum going back here with 2 outs. A little 2-out rally would be nice. Rich Doobie, I see him sneaking in behind Torres. He's coming out and try to get a little bit of inspiration for him, or give that bullpen a little chance to get warm. Or both.
And while they chat, we can tell you RBI Baseball 2017 returns with fast-paced pick up and play MLB action on consoles and mobile. RBI Baseball is packed with your favorite teams, players, ballparks, and more. Learn more at rbigame.com and get RBI Baseball today for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So Ramon Torres with Whit Merrifield on deck. So Torres should get some good pitches to swing at. He does not have a home run in the major leagues yet.
Hey, now that's what I thought. Not thinking he's going to go deep here. How about just a single to get him in, but going a 3-run bomb would be nice.
He had 5 at AAA Omaha.
He's got a little pop. He's got something in him. There's wrist right there, 2 for 4. Let's just see that big hole up the middle. That's really all he wants to do right there. Just try to keep it up the middle.
One and one. Most he has ever hit in a professional season is 5. 27 career minor league home runs for Ramon Torres.
I like how you're calling homer here. You're not, but you are. I like it. He's going to get a little cutter right here that don't cut in. Drive it.
Force at second base. The Royals strand 2 in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Rats.
Hustle at the Dodge Summer Clearance event going on now. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors for all for less. stay out of the fountains at Kauffman Stadium or otherwise. Mike Miners, a Chevy call to the bullpen. He'll get Castellanos, Upton, and Cabrera in the 7th inning.
Nice job he's done. Opponent's average under 200. 47 strikeouts in 44 2/3 innings. It's always good when your strikeouts are higher than your innings. That means you have some power in your pitches, and he does. He's got a little bit 95, maybe some 96 in him. Slider, changeup. Another reliever whom they weren't sure what was going to happen in the beginning of the season, but Minor missing the whole year ahead, coming off a shoulder surgery the previous year from that. It's part of the reason why the Royals bullpen has come together nicely. Minor's been a big part of that. Firm likes to come in on righties, just like that. Likes to break bats.
Nicholas Castellanos turned in our Ram drive of the game with 1 out in the 5th inning.
Barreled it. 13th on the year. 50th ribby.
One and 2. It is 6-3 Tigers in the 7th inning. It is 6-3 Yankees at Minnesota in the bottom of the 5th inning. Minnesota had an earlier 3-1 lead over New York. Cleveland just getting underway at San Francisco. Kane is back in center field, all the way back, and it hit the wall and went over. Castellanos has his 2nd home run of the game, and the Tigers have a 7-3 lead.
He stays inside of the ball so well with his hands. You know, they're trying to get it in. It just didn't quite get inside on him, and he left it there. Kind of like last night's homer, the changeup that he hit out. He's able to stay in. Bottom hand in, middle of the field. Great try by Locane, just didn't quite have the height to get it. Hit the top of the fence and went over.
Which is rare.
Yeah, why didn't it just come back into play when it held him to a double?
That's a smash into right center field. And up against the top of the wall. A home run and a double to greet Minor in the 7th inning. That's a 2nd hit for Castellanos. Or Upton, rather. Upton singled in the 5th inning. It was the 3rd extra base hit for Castellanos.
Just got 1 hit off of Moylan. And now the lefty comes in. They got 2 hits. They like left-handed pitching, don't they? Wow.
Runner at 2nd, nobody out for Miguel Cabrera. So the Tigers have scored 17 runs on 26 hits in the first 2 games. And Miguel Cabrera has chipped in with 2 singles and 1 run scored. Upton to 3rd, and the throw gets by Moustakas. Escobar's throw on a bounce, and it's out of Perez's glove, and Upton was safe anyway. Stolen base, an error on Perez, and the Tigers lead 8-3.
Tigers being aggressive. 7th steal for Upton. He took it and he saw it. Ball didn't get too far away, didn't hesitate at all. He says, you're going to have to make a perfect throw to get me. Showing some speed and energy. Normally, with Miguel Cabrera hitting, you're going to stay put. You're happy you're in scoring position. Over career hitter over 300. You're going to stay there, let him knock you in. Element of surprise, caught the Royals just right there. I don't think anybody was thinking that Upton was going to attempt to steal.
Two balls, two strikes. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Figure you keep him quiet, and you like your chances against the Tigers. Shot to Moustakas. Picks it off in the hole and low, and Hosmer bails him out for a second time tonight.
Yucks. Coming into the season, Cabrera, his career average is .321. Excuse me. Moose a little bit on the side. Usually likes to come over the top, and Haas ever trustworthy. Those hands are sweet. Nice pick. .321 career hitter. That's pretty good. Coming into this season.
And he gave us a thrill here at the end of the 2012 season when he won the Triple Crown. It was the first time since 1967 that anyone had won the Triple Crown. The Tigers just happened to be finishing up the regular season here, so he clinched it here in a big crowd here at Kauffman Stadium, a big walk-up crowd here to observe history, and gave him a nice ovation.
Oh, he'll never forget it. Miguel, he remembers that moment. Triple Crown, that's really hard to do. Kidding me at this level? Congratulations, more class act from the Royals right there.
Many would say that was the year that baseball returned to Kansas City with the All-Star game and the reaction from the crowd toward Robinson Cano. The ovation they gave Chipper Jones
right
at the All-Star game.
First time he'd ever been here, right?
They had one guy who basically lied and said he would put a Royal in the home run derby, and he didn't, and he heard it. And then the other guy said he always wanted to play Kauffman Stadium and was really excited to be here. And that guy got a standing ovation, Chipper Jones. Then the Triple Crown. Matuk is down 2 away, and the way the crowd came out to see history. And then in 2013, it took what, 158 or 159 games for the Royals to be eliminated. Justin Maxwell hit that walk-off grand slam, the final home game in 13, and this place went bananas. Nobody wanted to leave.
Oh, the fans were in the parking lot long after the game. It started to happen. We were 10 games over 500 that year. And then, you know, when I got here in 12, Dayton Moore sat me and Fizz down. We were new broadcasters there, and he said that he's thinking that these players that he's accumulated here, their maturity level as far as a team should probably happen. We're hoping in 14 or 15 that we should make the playoffs. Can't script that any better. Now, he also, after we won, and I shared that with a few people, he was so humble. He says, you know what, don't tell people that. You know, he's a humble general manager we have. But he called it. He knows his people. He knows his personnel. Pretty good call.
Foul ball off the left field line. 2-2 on Victor Martinez.
Look at Alex. Oh, come on. I want to throw him out. He played that carom like it was a fair ball. Love that. That's a sense of urgency. Somehow, some way, Royals got a big Got to figure out a way to beat these Tigers. 2 more after tonight.
Well, this was a very promising stretch of games for the Royals. 10 straight games against the 4th place Tigers and the last place White Sox. Those 2 teams going into tonight were a combined 21 games below 500. Martinez down on strikes. Minor strikes out 2, but he gives up 2 on a home run and an error.
Joel Goldberg back at Kauffman Stadium as we take a game break. Head back to Minnesota. Bartolo Colon didn't give one up, but the bullpen came in and served that up to Didi Gregorius, a 2-run homer. And the Yankees right now leading 6-3 in that one. Ryan?
Okay, Joel, speaking of bullpen, now it's in the bullpen's hand for the Tigers. Shane Green, after a so-called quality start for Matthew Boyd, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings, but I bet his manager thinks he did better than that after allowing 3 in the first and none over his next 5.
Oh, yeah, impressive. Seeing as how the Royals have raked him and put some impressive numbers on his ERA, he's able to settle back down and keep his team in the game. It's done a nice job. See if they can get Green. Green's got a good fastball, low to mid-90s. He likes to cut the fastball, slider, changeup.
Two and 0 on Witt.
It's a hard sinker. Plenty of time to mount a rally to try to get back into this game.
Three and 0 as a group. It's not been a good year for the Tiger bullpen. It's really been a bad last 4 years for the Tiger bullpen, but Green's had a good year. 192 opponent's batting average, a 3 ERA, and a 4-pitch walk with a 5-run lead in the 7th inning. And it's time for our T-Mobile Unlimited Baseball break. And last night during this feature, we told you that Carlos Correa came out of his game early with an injured left thumb. Well, now he's out 6 to 8 weeks with a torn ligament in his left thumb. Ichiro Suzuki has passed Ricky Henderson, one great leadoff hitter, passing another one on the all-time hits list.
Congratulations.
And the Orioles, man, they are all over the Rangers tonight. 12-1 in the 9th inning, and Chris Davis has a multi-home run game, including a grand slam against his original team, the Texas Rangers.
How about Ichiro, man? He's a lock for being the first Japanese-born American Hall of Famer in the Hall of Fame. And he could probably play till he's in his 50s. Takes good care of himself. Still hit.
Imagine what a thrill it would be in Japan if he, like some players, finished their career in Japan.
Oh, he's larger than life there.
That is foul. I remember when he was first called up and the amount of media that was following him around. And of course, Seattle was a great team. They won 116 games. Ichiro was Rookie of the Year and MVP. And I remember the Japanese media, I said, so what's it like for Ichiro in Japan? Who would you compare him to? Like, is he like Michael Jordan? Or is he like Brad Pitt? And the guy said, yep. And I said, well, which one? He said, well, kind of like Michael Jordan and Brad Pitt wrapped into one. Oh. 2-2 on Bonifacio. Still 2-2. James McCann looks like he could get hit with a tank with the mask that he has on. Look at that thing.
It's beauty. Might be the one that has the shock absorbers on the side.
Didn't get a full swing. A fastball at 95, and Green strikes out Bonifacio.
That's sinking action too. It's just not straight. That's a sinker. There's a reason. See this ball? Look at it go down at 95. Well, it's how you hold it. And you know, Alexander, McCarthy, a couple of our Royals sinker ballers have a lot of success with it. So does Green. Talked about that opponent average that Green sporting at 192. That tells you the story. 42 innings pitched, just 29 hits. He's been one of their best.
0-1 on Kane. Machado to Kinsler, over to Cabrera. An impressive double play for the Tigers. And we have played 7 at Kauffman Stadium. The Tigers still giving the Royals trouble this year. It is 8-3 Detroit.
Three spot up in a long time. Salvador, company, Haas knocked one in. Escobar did. But then the very next inning, the Tigers come back and drop a 5 spot in the second. Castellanos dealing. Look at that. That's not one, but he hit 2. Second career multi-home run game. Royals have been unable to recover from that.
Al Albuquerque, the former Tiger, will pitch again tonight. He pitched a scoreless inning against the Tigers in the 8th inning last night, and he gets the 8th inning tonight. McCann, Presley, and Machado are the scheduled hitters.
Heavy, hard fastball. He knew it was coming. McCann did it. Did it pretty well.
One down in the 8th.
McCann's probably saying, you know, that's a home run in a lot of ballparks here in big leagues. Out here, Albuquerque, good hard fastball, mid-90s, slider change.
Alex Presley is 0 for 3. He has a run scored. All 9 Tigers either have a base hit, a run scored, or an RBI.
You know, Presley, I was reading up on him. He's a soccer player in high school, and he played football. I went, really? I had to read a little bit further, find out he's a kicker. Soccer and kickers in football go hand in hand. Said he was pretty good at it. Certainly doesn't have the size to play. But his buddy in center field, Matuk, he was a football player.
2-2. That jersey requires a lot of numbers or letters or numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. An extra R compared to the New Mexico City. Albuquerque instead of Albuquerque. Back to the middle. And now Presley has his first hit. Alberto Jose Albuquerque from Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, we were flying out of Los Angeles for the All-Star break, and he was in line with me, and he was going to the Dominican Republic, and I didn't really realize with Albuquerque, I'm thinking, you know, that's an unusual name from the Dominican. I went to talk to him today, and I just missed him. He said that he had to go do some work, that he would come back. He said he doesn't like to talk to the media all that much, but he would talk to me. He agreed to it. I said, okay, I'll catch you tomorrow. I told him I was harmless.
Did he believe you when you said that?
Well, sure. That howdy doody face I have. That's what they called me growing up too, by the way.
See what kind of fielder he is. Just kind of shuffles it out to Torres. No double play.
Couldn't quite get his feet underneath him, and they're laughing at him right there. Esky and Torres, they're chuckling. Hey, because Dixon's fast too. Let's not forget he can run. Lesser runner, they might have gotten him.
Ian Kinsler with a runner at first, 2 down. So if I told you before the game started, Hud, when we get to the 8th inning, Ian Kinsler and Miguel Cabrera will have 3 hits and 2 runs scored tonight. No RBIs. And Cabrera will have 2 singles. How do you think the Royals are going to do?
Thinking I like our chances.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say, then if you're going to say, well, the Angels, I mean, excuse me, the Royals lost, I'm going to say, whoa, well then who else stepped up? Someone else had to.
Castellanos has driven in 4 with a 2-run triple and a couple of home runs. Victor Martinez has driven in 2. 2 and 2 on Kinsler. Full count. Ian Kinsler grew up in Arizona, went to junior college in Arizona, then Arizona State. He wasn't playing much at ASU and ran into Tim Jameson at a summer league game, and Tim Jameson said, come on out to Columbia. Base hit left field. Kinsler has 2 hits.
And he's got 12+ years in the majors after that, and no sign of slowing down.
17th round pick of the Texas Rangers 14 years ago. Ian Kinsler out of Mizzou.
Radical. Nice career. And you know, his dad was a warden. Remember, have we talked about that yet this year? I mean, all these years he's been in there. I mean, I talked to him about his dad being a warden at a prison.
As opposed to at a restaurant?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, high security prison in Arizona. Okay. So we got him. He told some stories about his dad coming home, and sometimes he would share some stuff about what went on at the prison. And being raised by a prison warden was pretty interesting. Some of his stories were fun and scary. But he's been retired for a long time.
Machado will score on the base hit by Castellanos, who is a double shy of the cycle. He has driven in 5 tonight, and the Tigers lead 9-3 in the 8th inning.
Solid contact there. Fastball just tried to get inside, but Castellanos, we talk about how well he keeps his hands inside the baseball. That's a big part of hitting in today's modern game. They did it back in the history of the game, that guys would use the whole field of hitting, but I never heard the term stay inside the ball. It's kind of that's a newer term as far as that, and get your foot down. That's another new term that's used in modern baseball today, because of all the guys who have that flamingo leg kick.
Moustakas goes the long way, and that's the inning. So it is a 6-run game. Hosmer, Perez, and Moustakas are coming up in the bottom of the 8th. tying 5 RBIs, a career high tying 4 hits tonight, leading the way in Detroit's 6-run lead. The newest item at the Royals Majestic Team Store has just arrived. A Royals licensed fidget spinner. These exclusive fidget spinners feature a design with all 3 hot dogs from the hot dog derby race: ketchup, mustard, and relish. So visit a team store here at Kauffman Stadium and get your hands on a fidget spinner. Alex Wilson takes over for the Tigers in the bottom of the 8th inning. He'll get Hosmer, Perez, and Moustakas.
He hasn't done too well. 41st appearance. Hasn't done too bad. I mean, he's got a sinker ball. 89 to 93. Slider, change, curve. He's going to pitch a little bit more than throw by guys.
With 2 more hits tonight, Eric Hosmer has hit safely in 19 of his last 20 games. That included a 16-game hitting streak, and it also includes 10 multi-hit games. Got his average up to 315 with 111 hits. Down on strikes, he is 2 for 4 tonight.
On the side of the ball, when they spin it like that, it just really gives a hitter fits when it's put in the right spot like that. That was an excellent location there of his breaking ball. Down underneath the bat.
Salvi had a sac fly in the Royals' 3-run first inning. He is 0 for 2 tonight. 58 driven in to lead the Royals. And a base hit into center field with 1 down.
Nice and easy. Didn't try to do too much there. Just waited for the strike. You know, Wilson, he's a veteran pitcher. He understands the situation here. Got a 6-run lead. Throw strikes.
Doesn't want to go through what Chad Bell went through last night for the Tigers in the bottom of the 9th inning with an 8-run lead and wasn't able to finish the inning.
Really, exactly.
Mike Moustakas with a base hit into right field. That's his 2nd hit. And the Royals' 9th.
Attack the strike zone, attacking right back. 88 over the middle, that's hittable.
Royals have 9 hits in 8 innings. All 9 hits are singles. Also had a hit batter, and they've reached with 2 walks. Outside to Escobar. He drove in a run back in the first inning. Well, the crowd's into it. They're not giving up with the Royals down by 6 in the 8th inning. That's line to center, but right at Matuk.
Buzzard luck. That's what you do. You know what? Wilson is throwing strikes and they're hitting it. And he's taking his chances that they got that big a cushion for a lead that eventually the defense is going to catch it, and that's what's happened here. Rather challenge hitters than try to paint them and try to finesse and nibble on the corners. Go right after him. He's doing exactly what Ausmus wants him to do. He's in here, hit it.
Alex Gordon with 2 on 2 out. Fastball at 93.
And he's a bulldog pitcher too. He's a tough guy. He's like Pete Moylan. Give him the ball anytime he's ready. It's the mentality you want.
What do you expect from a guy who grew up in Hurricane, West Virginia?
That's right.
One hop to Kinsler, who turns around and throws out Gordon to end the inning. To the 9th, Detroit leads 9-3. Six extra base hits tonight and a 6-run lead. Remember, every time the Royals turn a double play, the next day McDouble sandwiches are only $1 at participating McDonald's in the greater KC, St. Joe and Lawrence locations. Neftali Feliz on for a 2nd straight game. He pitched the 9th inning last night and gave up a couple of runs, 2 runs on 4 hits. In his first game back after being away from the Royals on the paternity leave list. His wife gave birth to his 2nd daughter, Nashley, on Saturday. Nashley and Lucia. Miguel Cabrera, Mike Matuk, Victor Martinez in the 9th inning. Tigers scored 5 in the 2nd. That's their big inning. 1 half inning after the Royals scored 3 in the 1st.
Phillies, the big fella, can bring it up there. Mid-90s, he might go 96, 97 at times. Slider change.
One ball, 2 strikes with the Tigers trading away JD Martinez to Arizona tonight, and there's going to be speculation and news just about every day from now until the 31st. Neftali Feliz was part of a big trade, and he just destroys Miguel Cabrera's bat, and there's 1 down in the 9th inning. You think about Feliz, you immediately think about the Texas Rangers, but he came up originally through the Braves organization. He wasn't there for very long, and at the deadline in 2007 The Texas Rangers sent Mark Teixeira and Ron Mayhay, a one-time Royal, to the Atlanta Braves, getting a veteran bat and a veteran arm inside DeMatteuk. The Braves in turn sent to the Texas Rangers Jared Saltalamacchia, Elvis Andrus, Matt Harrison, and Neftali Feliz to the Texas Rangers. And those guys were right in the middle of the Rangers going to back-to-back World Series in 2010 and 2011.
Oh man, I remember that. That's a big trade. Andrus still there.
Whit Merrifield's out in right field tonight. 2 down in the 9th. Feliz was the American League Rookie of the Year in 2010. Began the season hoping to make the starting rotation out of spring training, but they moved him to the bullpen. And he ended up saving 40 games. That was a major league record for a rookie.
I remember he was nails for several years.
Threw hard.
Oh man, you know, and he's still throwing above average fastball in the majors.
That's hit well to right center field. And Victor Martinez hits it off the top of the wall. He does not run at all, and he is barely in with a double. All those years as a catcher have done quite a number on his knees. And he can still hit, but he is one of the slowest runners in the American League.
Change up. He picked on it right over the middle of the plate. Stayed there. Good swing. Hit it high off the wall. Whitley got a good jump on it. Love how quick Whitley got rid of it. Now, if it was accurate, he would have thrown him out. Watch how quickly he gets rid of it. That's the infield days. He's turning 2 right there. That's the advantage that you have when you go to the outfield. Those infield skills, a lot like we see from Platinum Glove winner Alex Gordon in left. He uses his infield skills out there on throws, mainly off balance. Being an infielder going to the outfield can make you better. Out there.
James McCann has 2 hits. One ball, 1 strike. Tomorrow night it's Jason Hamill and Justin Verlander at 7:15. Our coverage, as always, begins at 6:30. And come on out for student night. Happy hour specials in the outfield experience. Live local music before the game. Thursday night, Danny Duffy and Michael Fulmer also at 7:15. That is caught on a rolling play by Gordon in left field. And Feliz mad at the location of that pitch, but grateful for his left fielder.
Oh man, I'm telling you what, don't matter the score, where it is, the game, or anything. He is a gamer. Make the play at any cost. Beautiful.
after this one on Boulevard Royals Live, we will talk about Detroit, as they have been swinging it in the first two, been that way all year long. And the offense got off to that nice start in the first and silent ever since. Perhaps they could have a regal effort. It kind of looks like Billy Butler a little bit. Anyway, back to you guys.
It is Billy Butler.
There you go.
No, it isn't. It's a tough night to be wearing a fur of some sort, some sort of a pelt.
I love the crown, though. The crown's special, and he's got rings too. He's got the 2 rings.
Look at that! Hey,
he's a believer, like a lot of these folks here staying here.
it'll be Torres, Merrifield, and Bonifacio in the bottom of the 9th inning, facing Alex Wilson. The Royals scored 3 in the first, and they have been scoreless in the last 7 innings. Matthew Boyd was the Tigers starter, and he carried an ERA of over 9 in his career against the Royals tonight, and then he allowed 3 in the first inning, and then none over his next 5. The bullpen has chipped in with 2 scoreless innings. Shane Green 1. Alex Wilson has a scoreless inning. This is his 2nd. There's Green. Two and 2 on Torres. Ouch. New York still leads Minnesota 6-3. They're in the top of the 8th at Target Field. Royals are a game and a half behind Minnesota for 2nd place. 3 games behind Cleveland. Cleveland leads 1-0 at San Francisco in the bottom of the 3rd.
Big matchup tonight also at Angel Stadium. Trout and Harper, Washington Nationals. They both homered too early in that one. 2 of the bright young stars in today's game.
There's Justin Verlander. He'll pitch tomorrow for the Tigers. Castellanos caught it. Got to be careful over there, because how many guys have we seen in pursuit of a pop-up coming over from 3rd or on the other side from 1st hit that corner of the railing of the dugout suite?
Hazard.
So that's the advantage of being in this division and being well aware of what's going on along the side walls. And now Merrifield with 1 out. Witt was hit by a pitch and he scored in the Royals' 3-run first inning. He's also reached on a walk. Matuk on the run. It is over his head. And Whit Merrifield has doubled in 5 consecutive games. If he doubles tomorrow, he would tie Mike Sweeney for the Royals record. He's on base for the 3rd time tonight.
Don't know why he wouldn't go tomorrow. 21st. Let it go, Witt. Good drive. Head stayed down on the ball. He pulled it. Like I said, he'll go to right field, left field, center field, wherever that ball is pitched, and he makes up his mind. He can hit. He's a ball player. Puts the ball in play, runs hard, plays hard. We respect that.
Bonifacio chops it out to Machado. 2 down. Merrifield goes to third.
Machado, he's slick.
9-3 Tigers. 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. Nicholas Castellanos has driven in 5 of the Tigers' runs tonight. Our Honda plays of the game.
Man, I'll tell you what, he's on a mission. You know, they lose a hitter that had 16 home runs and 200 at-bats, and J.D. Martinez, and now look who's picking it up. He's saying, I'll pick up the slack from my partner. Right.
Lorenzo Cain scored in the first inning, reaching on a fielder's choice. He's 0 for 4. Two 2-0. Cain to right. Presley is there, and that's the ball game. The Tigers have won the first 2 games, winning last night by 8. Tonight they win by 6. Nicholas Castellanos, a little over a month ago, was hitting .220, but now he's one of the hottest hitters in the American League. 2 home runs, 5 driven in, and now in his last 22 games, he has 6 home runs, 17 RBIs. Tigers win at 9-3. We will be right back.